Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming to the meeting tonight. We're a few minutes away from our start time. If you would like to speak during public comment, there is a sign-in sheet up here on the witness stand. If you would sign in, please. Thank you.
Thing moves. Boy. Yeah. Hey, Amy. Amy. I don't see Smith Turner. Oh, I don't see Smith Turner.
It's for all these numbers.
I don't see him. Yeah, I can put it. It might be somebody here substituting. I don't see nobody I recognize.
Did everything.
Yeah. Get through it. Thank you.
Here's the go. Because
I've got 6 o'clock, so we'll come to order. The March 13th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. And I don't see Smith Turner here for the, on a vacation. So we'll get Mr. Clyde DeLoach to fill in for you.
All right, if you'd stand, please. Let us pray. Dear Father, we thank you for this day and for this chance to come together as a community. We ask that you give us wisdom that we might do your will and do what's best for Patrick County. So let us move forward for this county and for each other. We ask this in the name of Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. Hurry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
And we'll have a moment of silence in recognition of the U.S. military serving here and abroad and our public safety workers. Seated. The next thing on our schedule is the approval of the meeting agenda, and have some amendments.
Yes, sir. Under new business, for the first item, I'd like to add introduction of the recreation director. At the end of new business, I'd like to add a resolution for a jail vehicle grant, approval of check signature, and DMV select. Under old business, please remove the administrator's report. And under closed meeting personnel matters, please add interim county administrator.
All right, and I'd like to amend too the ordinance, the repealing of the ordinance and everything on the solar panels, because the planning commission ain't through with that and everything, so we'll wait till they get through with it and have their public meeting. And I think that's it. All right, we need a motion.
Make a motion that we adopt this agenda with the changes so noted.
And a second.
I'll second.
And Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Loach?
Aye.
Mr. Earwalt? Mr. Perry?
And aye.
And I vote aye also. And the next thing will be the meetings, the minutes, and I need a motion to approve those if everybody's okay with it.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Loach? Mr. Earwalt?
Aye.
And Mr. Perry?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. And then next is the approval of the bills, claims, and appropriations. Do we have any discussion, or not? We'll get a motion. No discussion. I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Mr. Loach, second.
Second.
Mr. Simmons, a second. Call for a vote. Mr.
Aye.
Simmons? Mr. Loach?
Aye.
Mr. Earwalt?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. Next thing we got is public comment. Thank you, Lori. Looks like we got 4 signed up, so we'll let Miss Rebecca Adcock from Chamber of Commerce first.
Good evening. I just wanted to give a brief update and director of the Chamber of Commerce. Starting off this year, very busy membership and the magazine. March is the tourism department with. We are also that's where we're at with approval, and then working on organizing all the upcoming events. Tourism Summit, also working with the health assessment this year. Out. Five. That's ribbon cutting up. Also, our Patrick. Five. After the environment. Also, working with our local aid.
Thank you.
Me.
And next we have Mr. Jamie Clark, Peters Creek District on zoning and solar.
Thank you.
I'm addressing the board today as a concerned citizen of the Peters Creek District and, more importantly, a resident of South Mayo Drive. This As has been reported in print media recently, it appears that our former county administrator has signed off on a request to have a solar farm installed on South Mayo Drive in Stewart. Published reports indicate that the document was signed by the former county administrator on October 22, 2021, without being reviewed or approved by the county building inspector and the planning commission. Now, my neighbors and I are being forced to have another unwanted development in our neighborhood. Several years ago, a local junkyard moved into our community, and we had no recourse to keep a commercial business out of our residential community. Now we're facing the possibility of a huge solar farm on the opposite side of my home without going through the proper approval process. This isn't the only proposed solar farm that's in the works for Patrick County. In the recent days, I've learned about 2 other solar farms that are in the works. Both of these locations are less than 5 miles from the proposed South Mayo Drive site. The county currently has a cell tower ordinance that regulates the distance between cell towers so that we don't clutter our scenic views with towers and blinking lights. Any future ordinance for solar farms needs to also include this language. All of my life, I've always heard this phrase, the free state of Patrick. I'm fully aware that our county does not have a zoning ordinance, and most county citizens don't want one. A quick check of governmental websites in Southwest Virginia indicates that we're one of only a few localities in Virginia without a zoning ordinance. According to United States Census data, the population of Patrick County has decreased by 40 people in the last 40 years. The fact is simple. Patrick County just seems to maintain the status quo. We've never had a large-scale, high-paying employer in the county and probably never will. My wife currently commutes over an hour each way every day because she cannot find a local company that would pay her anything close to what she currently makes working out of town. The reason I say this is our greatest asset is the views and scenery of Patrick County. Therefore, tourism is going to be the largest economic driver here. If you litter our landscape with solar farms, you're taking away from the beauty of Patrick County. Former Virginia Governor and Patrick County native Gerald Belial stood before this board about 30 years ago and asked the board to put a plan in place to preserve the natural beauty of the county. The reason that I know of the details of his presentation that many years ago is because I covered that meeting as a member of the local news media. During that presentation, he showed the board members pictures of Lover's Leap covered in vandalism that resulted in the county installing cameras to monitor that area to hopefully deter future damage. Also during his presentation, he assured board members that no one wants to come to Patrick County's #1 tourist attraction to see it covered in graffiti. The reason I bring this up is if we consider tourism as the #1 economic development project in Patrick County, then we need to do whatever we can to protect it. I went to Axton in Henry County Saturday afternoon to look at the Axton Solar Project, and I've just given you all pictures that I took there. I provided you with a copy of the pictures, and I can assure you that no tourist wants to come here to look at solar panels. As a citizen and voter of Patrick County, I urge the Planning Commission to consider some type of zoning ordinance to protect the beauty of our county. It doesn't have to be super restrictive, but at least separate residential areas from commercial areas. The town of Stewart currently has zoning, and rarely do you ever hear any problems with citizens there. I don't want this to end up being what is keeping tourists away from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. And next, we got Miss Mary Beth Clement, Blue Ridge, about solar.
My name is Mary Beth Clement, a property owner in Patrick County, but voting resident of Pittsylvania County. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening once again over concerns with solar facilities and their destruction of rural land and living. At a previous Board of Supervisors meeting, I spoke from the heart after seeing firsthand acres and acres of solar panels, utility towers, and substation structures in Pittsylvania County, and researching how many solar projects have been approved over the past few years and how many acres of rural land have and will be destroyed. I'm very glad citizens are speaking out publicly concerning this topic, and I'm also very glad the county is providing public hearings, meetings, and notices to all concerning this topic. In light of recent events, the county is considering doing away with the current ordinance. However, I highly discourage such action. Patrick County's ordinance is quite restrictive against solar facilities and serves as a deterrent to these companies whose only motive is money, not green energy. I urge you to keep the current ordinance in place, but review it from the perspective of these companies and their motive to see if further restrictions are needed to the ordinance to protect the county from these solar LLC predators. When doing some more research on these solar companies and trying to figure out who really owns these LLCs, it is a confusing puzzle with hundreds, if not thousands, of these LLCs and who are owned by other corporations. They have made it difficult, to say the least, in finding out who they really are. I also encourage you to review the ordinance, application process, and documentation itself, and consider requiring any LLC applicant to disclose their true business type of organization and ownership, company contacts, years in business, lists of projects completed and under construction, and contact lists of other localities, as reference checks on those who they really are and the quality of work they could perform, and even require audited financial statements or similar financial documents be submitted, similar to what you have to do in public procurement anyway. In addition, review the ordinance for any third-party consultants or contractors needed, and make sure those are third parties selected by Patrick County representatives, but paid for by the solar LLCs. The fact these solar companies are providing easy and quick economic development is odd at best, if not suspicious. I encourage the members of the board and the community to visit the website citizensforresponsiblesolar.org. Their website offers a great deal of information from all angles, from solar companies themselves to comparisons of different energy sources, and a toolkit and resource for citizens and local governing boards. Once again, I very much appreciate your time listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we got Mrs. Jane Falk, Dan River District, about the comprehensive plan.
Okay, as we don't have zoning, our comprehensive plan needs to have in it about renewable energy, which is solar and others. We have a public hearing scheduled for March 21st at 6 o'clock to recommend an amendment to our comprehensive plan of 2021. After we do that, we will look at our solar ordinance that we now have in place and maybe change a couple of things that are there. But we will also have a public hearing when we make those changes. So I wanted the citizens to know where we were and what we were doing. The only thing I want to request is that all correspondence regarding solar or renewable energy be forwarded to the chairman of the Planning Commission. We have a great deal of correspondence that we never got. We didn't know anything about it. In fact, I got some more today. So I don't know who's in charge of getting it, but I know y'all don't get it. But some way it goes through the administration process. And whoever gets it, I would like for y'all to make sure they send it to the chairman of the Planning Commission so we can be up to date and not go in cold. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Anybody got any questions? Good? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And that's all the ones that we had on the public comment period. Do we have any remarks? Simmons? Getting remarks? Mr. Wall?
No.
Harry? No. And I don't either. And thanks for everybody taking concern. Glad to see a good crowd here tonight too. And thanks for the speakers. Next, we go into new business. Ms. Shuff, you got that one?
Yes, sir. I'd like to, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Travis Murphy as the new Patrick County Recreation Director. Mr. Murphy will begin his work as the Recreation Director on Monday, March the 20th.
Welcome.
Good to meet you. Thank you. Glad to have you. And next, we got Mr. James Hutchins from the Tourism Coordinator. An update?
And not to sound a little crazy, it's Houchins.
I have a time.
That's no problem.
I'm
no
sorry,
problem.
I'd have a time pronouncing yours.
That's no problem at all. And I'm now the director of tourism and marketing as well too. So I'm glad that they have someone hired for the recreation department as well.
Okay.
But I'll say good afternoon to the members of the board. I'm here tonight just to give a quick overview and a report from the Office of Tourism and Marketing. First of all, tourism spending from the state, our region, Southwest Virginia, Blue Ridge, Holland Highlands, and our local economy is trending up. The VTC will be updating and posting more reports soon to reflect the actual numbers. I did share with you all some handouts to look over later that gives 3 different scenarios of the possible impacts of COVID-19 as related to tourism spending. We have the downside, the baseline, and the upside, which again are projections from the Tourism Economics and Oxford Economics Company. Their singular objective is to combine an understanding of the traveling sector and provide economic tools. More than 500 companies, associations, and destinations work with the tourism economics every year as a research partner. I'm optimistic, so the upside projections are what I see happening. Again, these are case scenarios or projections. So just the handouts that I gave right quick, again, it just does show that in the perfect world in 2022, tourism spending surpasses 2019 levels by $1.3 billion. The visitor economic support is, they're projecting 3,400 more jobs than in 2019. Again, also it shows you a baseline comparison as well as a downside comparison. And again, these are just projections from the company that the Virginia Tourism Corporation has that are projecting these numbers. But again, I definitely want to stress with the board that we do see an overall increase in tourism spending, which will ultimately help Patrick County out. Also, our office is busy as we're preparing for our tourism summit. It will be held at Firestone State Park on March the 27th. The event will begin at 9 a.m., concluding at 3 p.m. It will be held at the Fairdale Hall, again located at Firestone State Park. We have opened up registration. We've closed registration. And right now we do have a very good group that will be out. During that day, we have the Virginia Tourism Corporation, the West Piedmont Planning Commission, Friends of Southwest Virginia, Longwood Small Business Development Center, and the Virginia Economic Development Partnership that will be presenting information. What our goal for tourism is that day is that, again, that we have collaboration, education, and just make sure that we're all on the same page as we, again, try to get tourists into our county. We have been working closely with the Chamber of Commerce, again, to get the word out. And we also will be providing boxed lunches that day that will be prepared by the Reynolds Homestead. So we're trying to keep everything local and just make sure, again, that any entity that wants to be a part of it will definitely be there so that they can see how we're trying to, again, elevate the tourists here in the community. Also, one of the things I wanted to definitely bring out to you all tonight, in case you haven't already heard, we're in the early stages of a Moonshine Heritage Trail that we're working on. We have formed a partnership with Floyd County and Franklin County. We have sought guidance from the Virginia Tourism Corp, again, the West Piedmont Planning Commission, and Friends of Southwest Virginia, and have applied for a grant to begin phase 1 of a multi-phase project with us, Patrick County, taking the helm. And I wanted to make sure that the board understood this, just in case you hear a lot of talk in the community about moonshine in the county. We're focusing on the heritage and not the consumption. Good. I'm glad you got that, okay? I even made a note, make sure you laugh at that, okay?
I was going to offer we'd do a taste test for you.
Ultimately, once we're complete with it, that will be on the backside of it because, again, we're working with Franklin County and the distilleries that they already have in Floyd County. And it'll be one of those deals that if you make the entire trail, you'll get a little token possibly or scan in. Once you complete the trail, do all the activities, than it probably would be free testing at Five Mountain Distillery or some of the other ones that's located in Franklin County. And hopefully, the next couple of years, we may even have a distillery here in the county. So we're looking at a lot of different things that we can hopefully do there. We've been researching and documenting actual and not so known sites of stills here in the county and the other said counties. This includes local areas such as I.C. DeHart Park in Woolwine, which had a legal distillery in the late to early 1800s. We've got that documented there as well too. We've got over 16 miles of bike trails out at the Woolwine DeHart Park area. We're doing a lot of renovation over there as well. They'll be having a ribbon cutting April the 27th for the new documentation of the trails that they have out there for the bike trails. And along one of those bike trails, it actually goes by a moonshine still that was actually on the property at that time. So all of the pieces of the puzzles are starting to come together. We're also working with Firestone State Park very closely on this project. Danny Martin, who is a former ABC officer here in the county, me and him has been in multiple conversations. He's helping us with it because he's already doing a lot with a lot of the moonshine heritage already. He's produced a play called Corn Squeezing. He also has been giving moonshine trail hikes located right there at Firestone State Park on actual still sites. So we're just taking all of that information, things that's already been happened in the past, and going to put it together. And we do know just from some of the feedback that we've been getting with the various entities that this could be something that would definitely grow, not just for Southwest Virginia, not just for Franklin, Floyd, and Patrick, but again for the entire state. One of the things that we are hoping that we can do is sort of model after Kentucky, who has a bourbon trail. Tennessee is real big also in sponsoring a lot of their heritage also in the spirits, the distilled spirits realm. So we've got a lot that we're going to be going and doing. Also, the VA 250 committee is taking off. We've had 2 meetings so far. I just got back from a kickoff meeting in Williamsburg, Virginia. It was called A Common Cause for All. We had a tremendous, emotional, reflective event filled with reenactments and speeches by historical figures from America's past and prominent leaders of today. Williamsburg does an absolute marvelous job in creating those events surrounding the American Revolution and life back then during the Williamsburg era. And of course, they do a phenomenal job with that. We heard from Thomas Jefferson. We heard from Benjamin Franklin. We heard from George Washington. And most of the leaders for the day, which I was honored to hear, got a chance to meet and talk with him, was the former Chief Justice Kennedy. That was one of the highlights of the day for me as well. And for his emotional teachings on the Constitution of the United States. We actually got into constitutional law. And I would just ask everybody in this room tonight to really just sit down and really reread the Constitution if you haven't, and sit and study it, because a lot of us have got a lot of things that may not always be concurrent with what we think. However, 34 different states were there at the meeting. We had 100 plus of the 133 counties in Virginia that was in attendance. Virginia is taking the role for the VA 250. And what this is, again, we're starting now the groundwork, teaching, educating those who will be a part of the committee, so that as we continuously move from this 2023 to get to 2026 is when we will celebrate 250 years of the Americas here. And that's independence from Great Britain. It's going to be an outstanding thing. It's going to be commemorative. Hopefully it's a moment for people to reflect. They taught us a lot. We remember the people that were involved. We remember the period. They taught us the good, showed us the good, the bad. You know, our nation may not be perfect, but we are a nation. and we're still seeking a more perfect union. Virginia is leading the way. Virginia's history is America's history. You really need to understand that. Everyone just in this room tonight that is a Virginian needs to understand that it started in Virginia. We've got a lot to be proud of. In Patrick County, we are really doing all that we can to make sure we're in the forefront of these celebrations. A lot else has been going on. We've applied for some grants. We're working again with West Piedmont Planning Commission, grants to help us to facilitate the VA 250, as well as the Moonshine Heritage Trail. Southwest Virginia has applied for a grant on a multi-county grant, also involving Pulaski and several of the other regions in Southwest Virginia to help us to increase our outdoor recreation here in the community as well. We've been doing a lot with ICD Hart Park outside of the Moonshine Heritage Trail, as well as the bike trail, to get them more involved in things, because that's a hidden gem in Woolwine. A lot of property there that really has been tapped, but there's still a lot that we can tap into. We're getting back into our festival season, so you're going to start hearing a lot going on with the various festivals here. We do know, again, as I mentioned the last time I was before you, that Floyd Fest is no longer in Patrick County, and we also will not be having the Bluegrass Festival this year as well, too, and that's because we know, and we ask all of you all to continue to keep the Hazelwood family in your prayers, because they're just going through a lot right now, so they're not able to have it. But I have been in meetings with Sammy Sheeler, the Lonesome River Band, as well as One Family Production, that hopefully next year we'll be able to do something, maybe not in that grander of a scale, but we will be able to bring the Bluegrass Music Festival back here. Hopefully the town of Stewart will be in the process of retaining the rights or the ownership of the Star Theater. We've got a lot that we will be hopefully working with them to get more done here in the community. And again, just ask all of you all to keep speaking highly favorable of Patrick County. I mentioned it before, I'm like a used car salesman when it comes to the county. Everywhere I go, I speak Patrick County. While I was at the meeting in Williamsburg, meeting a lot of dignitaries, a lot of very important people, you all know from times past, Southwest Virginia seems to be sort of left out of a lot of things because we're not in Richmond, we're not in Suffolk County, and we're not right outside of Washington. But hopefully I put our name in some key people that as they continue to look to development, hopefully it will come our way for tourism. Because tourism is one of the economic drivers here as well. And finally, I just ask that whatever the citizens of the county, as well as the board, decides with the ordinance on the solar, again, make sure whatever you do, please don't mess up the scenic views no more than you absolutely have to, because that is what brings people here. They love the view, they love the area. Being about an hour from Blacksburg, Danville, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, they love to come get their quiet time in the country. If they need a nightlife, they can go an hour away, but they can always come back here to peace and tranquility. So again, that's just some of the highlights that we're doing in tourism. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you, James. The next thing we got under new business is set a hearing to pass ordinance for the buses to have outside video where they can get the tags. And I think, Amy, you want to read that or make a comment on it?
Our school superintendent. I request for silent.
If you would.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I'd first like to say thank you. I know we had our first joint budget meeting. It was probably the most beneficial and cooperative meeting we've had, so I thank you for our steps working together better as we move forward. But yes, for the bus ordinance, we cannot install external cameras on the stop arm of a school bus without having public input and an ordinance by the county that we are allowed to do so. So we are currently looking at the cost of doing that on approximately about 10 buses to begin with, those that travel on 58 mostly, and some areas that are reported. This year we've had approximately 10 reports from a bus driver that people have driven past through the stop arm, and we can write down license plates, but it's difficult for a bus driver to be motioning students to cross the road and trying to write down license plates. So this stop arm camera will record the person driving and get their license plate, which then we would turn over to local law enforcement. So because it could be used and be prosecuted, it has to go before the public comment and for the board to make an ordinance allowing us to do so.
So just to kind of bring some people up to date in the ordinance, and I'm seeing that the public hearing is scheduled for April 17th. That's what I'm seeing on. So if a law enforcement officer was to see someone run a stopped school bus with stop signals engaged, you'd be stopped and given a ticket for 46.2-859, which is running the stop bus. So this ordinance is referring to 46.2-844, which gives the school the authority to put those cameras in place, and there's particulars that the cameras have to get. It gives, it allows that video evidence to be able to, I guess, prosecute or consider someone guilty of, and then impose a civil penalty of $250 for a person that runs the stop bus. It's captured in the video. So without this and without the ordinance, they just run a stop bus unless a law enforcement officer sees them. So that's in a nutshell what the ordinance is saying.
And I'd comment too that maybe the news media could put that out or an article on it. That's a very important thing. The incident that Amy's talking about is close to us, and it could, one of the times when that came up, there were 6 kids getting ready to cross the road and get on the bus. The bus stopped, lights on, flag out and everything. And the car come by the bus, and just so happened one of the older kids realized it and held the others back. But you know, that's something people need to be wary of and remember, especially in the mornings and evenings when they're running the bus routes.
That's correct.
Very, very important. Okay.
And that we put student safety first, and that's why we would need this assistance as well. You know, currently we make the call, and if our deputies are somewhere else and they're not able to come try to follow that vehicle or find that vehicle, then it just gets reported and we are not able to follow through and keep our students safe. So this will be an extra layer to help us.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really good thing. Appreciate it, Justin.
Thank you.
So can we get a motion to make public hearing for April the 17th at a certain time? Okay. It'll be on April the 17th. We get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Loach?
Aye.
Mr. Walt?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. So the public hearing will be on April the 17th, 2023, and probably around 6:30 or so. And let's see. And the next thing is a very unpopular thing, setting the tax rate. I would entertain a motion to set it at 73 cents on the real estate, which would be no increase.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Got a
second.
motion, got a second? Call for a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Walt? Aye. Mr. Perry?
Aye.
And I vote aye also, so it'll stay at 73 cents on the real estate.
Mr. Chairman,
Uh-huh.
your agenda here says that you're supposed to be scheduling a public hearing.
Well,
Actually,
well, the only reason we'd have to schedule, the way I understand it, we can ask the attorney, but we wouldn't have to schedule a public hearing unless we was going to increase the rate. All right?
That is correct. That is correct, sir. There's no requirement for a public hearing if the rate is not changing. Although I will say this, as a practical matter, I've always recommended that public bodies hold public hearings anyway, just to give the public an opportunity to speak.
So would you advise setting a public hearing then?
I would suggest that you have that public hearing.
Right, so we will set it, see if we can figure out what a date. 29th? Let's see, that'll be, we're already having a
We
meeting.
already have.
Having a meeting on 27th, ain't we? Okay. Okay,
What's the first one and
what do you say, sir?
what's the first?
Done. Needs it done by the end of March.
I understand, but we're not going to change.
Got it.
Okay, oh, I can't.
Scouts honor.
No way.
Yeah, I think that was one reason we were trying to go ahead and do it tonight.
Technically, you just said it, so you're gonna have to undo it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have a motion to correct that.
But,
Just for the,
Well, can you live with it if we put it for the 29th?
first of all, put it 29th. No. I mean, there's no way. And then you're cutting the time frame for taxpayers, because we try to get them out in the middle of April, so that they've got from the middle of April, they give them time to make sure that they've got delivered, they've gotten the bill, lost, time to call in, and say, hey, I didn't get one, time to mail one. You're cutting out a lot of that, so I mean, that's
Well, what creates that problem is when we went to that twice a year billing.
right, and I understand it, this is what we have every year, but
Give us just a minute.
Are we going to discuss the budget? Budget's discussed. I'm just saying.
We had the same problem. What's the earliest if we do a 29th the earliest? You can't do that.
possible, I mean, you can do that, I just can't wait to middle of April, wherever that date is, to set the rate in. You can have a special call the meeting after the public hearing, and set the rate, first of April, I mean, you can do that.
Well, can we do it on the same night we have the public hearing?
No, the budget needs to wait 7 days.
The budget, but
Yeah, well, that's true, the tax rate doesn't
But
necessarily.
you can do it,
Budget
you
does.
can do it, you can have the public hearing and everything done by the 29th, but the rate, like, like that will. This, you're asking us to wait till April, whatever, what's that?
17.
17th, I mean, that's, we usually have bills out.
Cutting it close.
Well, I mean, there's no way, because you can't process the booking, you got a rate to go with it. So that's, and I can't process the bills, you process the book, so.
It's that twice a year billing thing that we get every year.
I agree.
Well, I make a motion that we have a public hearing and set the rate on the March 29th. That's a Wednesday.
All right, we've got a motion then that we set a public hearing on the 29th of March. And probably, we can, if that's all we got going on that night, we can do it around 6:15, can't we? 6? Okay. All right, we'll set it for March 29th, 6 PM, to have the public hearing on the tax rate and to set the rate at the same time. And we've got a motion. Need a second?
Second.
Got a second. Call for vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Loach?
Aye.
Mr. Walt? Perry?
Aye.
I vote aye also.
Now we need a,
Do we? I don't
Thanks,
think.
Kurt.
You did make a motion to set it, so if you're going to have a public hearing, you send prior.
I'll make the motion to rescind.
Need a second?
To rescind the prior motion? And I'll second.
Call for a vote?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. Thank you. And then, on the solar ordinance, I done made a comment on that. We're gonna postpone all of that till the planning commission has their meeting and public hearing and all that on that one. So, and I reckon the next thing we have is a resolution of the governing body for a jail vehicle grant. Have any information? You got it?
Yes, sir. We received on last Friday information from USDA that Sheriff's Office is eligible for a 75% grant up to $50,000 to purchase 2 to 3 vehicles. And they are asking that this resolution be put in place for them to apply for this USDA grant.
Okay, so we need a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
I'll second.
Got a second? Call for vote. Mr. Simmons, are you all right? You have any question?
I was just reading it first. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. Do you have update, DMV?
Yes, sir. The DMV Select is currently in transition of training 2 new employees. During the training, DMV office in Richmond does require that they close. So the DMV will be closed tomorrow, March the 14th, for the full day. And they will also be closed on Monday through Friday, March the 20th through the 24th for training. There may be additional closure hours in March and April for inventory and further training. So we're asking for patience and understanding while the DMV Select is in this transition period.
Thank you, Don.
And that's been posted like for the news?
Yes, we're sending it to the WIO.
Great, thank you.
You put it on the website too?
We will. And DMV will also put it on their website.
All right, and is that all we had?
Now I have one more.
Check.
The approval of the check signature.
Yeah.
The payroll and vendor checks for the county require 3 signatures. So I'm requesting that the board approve me as the 3rd signature as assistant county administrator until a county administrator.
We get a motion
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
and a vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Starwell?
Aye.
Perry?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. And I was about to leave out, which is under old business, but the EMS equipment. I think we had the paperwork on that, a couple meetings ago?
And you all received it also in the bills packet. Payments were.
Okay. And I don't have it in writing, so I ain't got it up. Can you just briefly run over what it is?
CCDF Volunteer Fire and Rescue Squad was asking for $23,242.54 as part of the FY23 Capital Equipment Fund to purchase a generator. They did receive 2 quotes and could not secure a 3rd quote. So the lowest was a $23,242. Let's see, ARAT Volunteer Rescue Squad, with their 2023 capital funding request, is asking for the full $76,000 to put toward 2 lift systems for 2 ambulances, and which comes to a total cost of about $115,000. I have received word from them that they do have the funds to make up the difference between 76 and 115. Berry Stone Volunteer Fire Department from their, that's not. For their 20, they had funds available from the 2020 fiscal year left over. They were requesting $37,758.51 from the $38,000 remaining funds to purchase. Sorry. Well, they've already purchased. We're just reimbursing them for a Lucas system for one of their, for the fire truck. All right, thank you. The Vesta Volunteer Rescue Squad had some funds left over from 2022 of $76,000. They're requesting $35,585.02 for a new LifePak 15 monitor and defibrillator. And the remaining funds of $40,000 that they're not spending goes back in the general fund under the new requirements set up by the ESAC committee that if they don't use them within a year, they will be reverted back to the general fund. Stewart Volunteer Fire Department, for the remainder of their 2023 capital equipment, is asking for $29,724.84 for SCBA. Is that breathing equipment? Air pack. There you go. Thanks, Scotty.
They won't purchase full air packs.
And I think that was the last one.
All right, and the funds are already there.
Yes.
Right, okay. Well, good.
All of
Already there.
every year, whatever doesn't get spent, we set aside in a special fund for them to do. And then, yes, and then for FY23, the funds are there.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion in a second?
I'll second.
Perry is a second. Call for vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Perry?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. Then, under old business, we had supervisors' reports. Simmons,
I had
Mr. Loach.
I attended the Department of Social Services meeting, and they're very busy and need more help, but other than that, they're doing well. I went up to Metazadan for the meeting for the bank, and tremendous community support, which was good to see. This weekend I was in Williamsburg actually, James. I attended the Sorensen group, which is training. And just as an aside, there's an African-American church in Williamsburg, which was established in 1776 by slaves out in the meadow, but it's still standing, 1776. That's all.
Mr. Walt.
Attended the West Piedmont Planning District Commission meeting. They continue to assist the localities with grant funding and things of that sort, and they've been a great resource for Patrick County. So their minutes are on their website if you'd like to hear specific. And then, of course, you heard the tourism report from Mr. Houchins tonight. Excellent job. Thank you.
Mr. Perry.
So I attended, of course, the Planning Commission. We're continuing to work on the next comprehensive plan and going at it hard and heavy, and then also tweaking to support the solar piece, and also looking at the various solar things and trying to improve that, and setting up for the public hearing. And also STEP meeting, where they've been looking at rearranging things in various appropriations, how to spread what they have across the system, still having some COVID issues where their left and right limits are stricter than everybody else's, so they're working that out. And also, I guess more as a citizen rather than a board member, the ICD Heart Planning Committee to improve trails in ICD Heart Park. And I'm with Jay. I'm incredibly excited about things to come there. So, good things are on the way.
Right, and I've been to so many meetings lately, I can't remember them all, but but we did do the EDA, and they've got several good things going on with the EDA, very positive things. And me and Mr. Simmons had a budget committee meeting. West Piedmont Planning and West Piedmont Planning Executive Committee, Mr. Sturwell's done give the highlights on that one. And I think that's it. Okay. All right, well, I reckon, is that everything we got, Ms. Shuff? I guess we'll go into closed session. Thank you.
Make a motion, we enter into closed session pursuant to Section 2.23711 of the Code of Virginia to discuss the appointment of specific individuals to the Service Authority pursuant to subsection A1, to discuss the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, and discussion of the terms of such contract where discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position of the county related to employee health insurance pursuant to subsection A29, and 3 is discussion regarding the appointment of an interim county administrator pursuant to subsection A1.
Thank you. We'll go into closed session at this time. Thank everybody for coming.
I'll second it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've got to make it.
Aye.
Aye.
And I
And I vote aye also, sorry about that.